Hey everybody, Bart here, and I just wanted to make a quick video about basic mobility for the lower body. Now, a lot of people are quick to jump into stretches, too deep into stretches. I prefer to ease into them and really take my time. And so some of those stretches might include lower back exercises, hip exercises, exercises that focus around the knee, ankle, or all of the above. So I'm going to start with child's pose. So in child's pose, I'll take my knees wide. I'll work on sitting back over my heels, bringing my big toes to touch. So I'm relaxing my spine, primarily the lower back, the sacroiliac region. I'm stretching my knees, I'm stretching the top of my foot, and it's just a really good relaxation place for the glutes too, especially if you have sciatica. I can always do this exercise narrow, but I'm focusing on the lower body when I'm doing this, so I'm not really stopping what the upper body's doing, working elbow plank style forearms. Now I'm relaxing the spine, but what I'm trying to do here is work the lower body. I don't recommend doing a lot of these stretches before a run, but after a run for sure. I would stick with the foam roller before a run, and then some of these more static stretches after a run. So next, I'm going to work on a kneeling stretch. So I'm going to scoot back a bit. Sometimes we'll call this single-legged splits. Sometimes it's called bowing warrior if I bow. Sometimes it's called what the heck. I don't know if I can get there. So we can always work this style of stretch for our single-legged fold. Sometimes it's nice to do that stretch right here. The difference is when I'm up on one knee and I have one leg forward, I'm really highlighting the hamstring. Here I'm encumbered a bit by the flexibility in my torso, so I'm not hitting my hamstring as hard as when I have one knee bent underneath with one foot forward, like in that single-legged splits, or sometimes if I'm in a more bowing position, humble warrior. Woo! And I prefer when I'm starting to get into my hamstrings to start above instead of down low. That way I can start to release the spine a bit by bending the knees. The spine will start to stretch, and it will be a whole lot easier. I'm using gravity here than when I'm sitting down, because if I'm not warmed up, I'm limited by how flexible I am in my lower back, and I haven't done anything to the hamstring starting here. Now, a lot of the pharmacies like CVS, Rite Aid, even Target still has some of these smaller ones, and I can do modified single leg, one of these smaller foam rollers. I can do that modified hurdler, so that one would look on this side right here. That's pretty heavy. I would do something like this if I had tight hamstrings before running. I'm not 1, 2, 3, I'm not static stretching, I'm rolling. This is wicked. And so when I start to do lower body mobility exercises for a workout, well then I'm not going to do seated forward fold. I might do a couple variations of standing forward fold, or I might do something active like this single leg. And remember, my legs are pretty flexible, where I might do like something like these alternating tap downs, which is gonna work my hamstring. And I might walk and do my calf stretch. I might even do like a walking caterpillar, where I'm working my hamstrings this way. But I'm definitely not gonna do a seated forward fold. All right, next is kneeling lunge. So a kneeling lunge, I might start up here. Obviously I'm exaggerating my lunge now so I could be better in the frame for you. Yours might be a little bit more narrow. Mine's a bit more wide. I've got my knee over my ankle, and I start one arm at a time. So this is a perfect place, and I'm using the yoga block as actually a place for my camera, but this would be a great place for a yoga block.
as I work in. When I'm doing this for mobility, I might work the leg. You might see some walking exercises like this, where we call it world's greatest. So that's a very popular mobility exercise. Again, that lunge, if I'm doing this pre-workout, I'm gonna make it moving, dynamic. I'm not gonna just hold it, working down. That's what we would consider like a long static pose yin yoga, as opposed to yang yoga, which is dynamic. You're moving the vinyasa sequence, the flow. And so, a couple more things for mobility. Some of it like percussion. Percussion's a good thing to kind of warm up an area. So you might have seen this in some of my yoga posts. Rabbit's pose, where we hammer out our lower back. That's a great way to kind of warm up tissue. We call that percussion, just like drumming. And then I'd say working my squat. So another place that's good for a block, I can work the hips. I can relax the spine. So this is taking weight out of my lower back, my lumbar region, and also that sacral region. And so, for example, using something to sit on. This is a little too short. Probably want one of those yoga blocks, but you catch my drift. And then we've already discussed foam rolling at length in some videos past, but earlier today in a discussion we had in one of our kind of trainer groups was the underutilization of the calves, probably because the calves are just not getting activated. So one way you can start to show love to your calves before we get into crazy jumping, before we start doing stairs, before we do calf raises, might just be calf rolls. And so try some of these out if you'd like before you get to fold. Maybe it might be something to practice a straddle. It seems a little bit more manageable. Sometimes we call this wide-legged downward facing dog, but just give it a shot. Wake your lower body up, keep it fresh, keep it mobile, and stay tuned for more videos that will make on mobility. Happy Friday, everybody. Take care of yourself.